I will watch it.
Yes, I gotta make me an intro video. I think this absolutely is worthy of the best kinds of introductions. So, hey y'all, I know we're going live in a couple of different places. I know people will be hopping on as they get all the notifications in all the different places.
Sure.
But I am so excited. This conversation is long overdue. So I just updated my TikTok family with like how we even got here. And so if you happen to be new to me for some reason, it's okay. I'm glad that you're here. I am Danielle Graves. I'm known socially as Danielle the Coach. I'm a certified life and leadership coach, and I help successful professionals, more specifically six-figure earners, make strategic, profitable, and purpose driven career pivots without regret. I have been doing this work over the course of, at this point in time, over 6 years, pushing 7 years. And one of the things that I know is that there are tangential industries and complementary industries that my clientele benefits from having amazing connections, amazing resources, and also doing complementary work in addition to the work that we do when it comes to life and leadership coaching. And one of those tangential complementary industries is that of mental health. And so a couple of years ago, I had the grand, divine, I know it's nothing but God given idea to partner with service providers, specifically mental health professionals, to bridge the gap with those who are considering a major career pivot, considering doing something different in their life, considering taking back the reins of their life and or career, and maybe defying the status quo, doing something unpopular, doing something unprecedented, starting a business of their own, whether full or part-time, side hustle, whatever. But one of the things that I know is that one of the hard parts for us is no longer, for the most part, knowing that I need help. It's where do I find the right help? So I took it upon myself and I said, Self, well, maybe you can help bridge the gap and
Mhm.
bring on some of the amazing people that you know that are professionals in the mental health space just to put a face and a name and a business and a resource and an opportunity in front of your audience. I got people from all walks of life that are connected to me that kind of keep up with my work, that sometimes become clients. And I know quiet as kept, there are a lot of people that pay attention, that watch silently, and that's okay. As
Mhm.
long as you're picking up what your girl is putting down,
Mhm.
and as long as the resources that I'm providing are beneficial, I find that okay, right? I'm about to stop preaching in a minute, but I wanted to just set up this conversation while people are still coming in. If you are joining us live, welcome. Do me a favor, do us a favor, and drop a comment wherever you may be watching, and let us know where you are tuning in from. Say, hey, how you doing? We'd love to see you in the comments. So today I am bringing back my series called "The Best of Both Worlds: A Therapist and a Life Coach." Of course, I am the life coach in
The
the mix. The
the
seat that rotates in this series is the therapist.
Mhm.
And today I'm really excited to have someone that I have an immense amount of respect for personally and professionally to my space, to Danielle the Coach land, to have a conversation around the gift of mental health. So Dr. Shatiea Blount is here with us tonight, and I'm excited for
Hello.
her to share her immense wisdom, especially with it being this time of year. So at the time of this live stream, it is December. It's the holiday time, so there's a lot to unpack, pun intended, around
Mhm.
the gift of mental health. So let's dive in. Dr. Shatiea, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right.
Let's
All right. So let's I gave the spiel of who I am, how we got here. Um, tell us who you are, and I'll leave it there. Just tell us who you are.
So who am I? So I am Shatia Blunt. My name means she who is bold and courageous. My mama made it up. and I embody it fully. And what I do for work is I am the founder and CEO of IME LLC, a private psychotherapy practice really dedicated to elevating Black minds through mental health. And we have a few service pathways. The one that I will talk about the most here is our therapy for the strong friend, and also our well-being works program, where we really focus on, in both of those spaces, supporting those who are leaders in their work, in their lives, in their business, in their families, really helping to prop them up and create a community around them, because oftentimes, they cry, but many people are not attuned to the sound of the cry of the strong friend. So we are very uniquely positioned, myself and my team, to support those folk. So yeah, so that's who I am. Bold and courageous, Shatiea, out of the box kind of thinker. And that's who my mama named me. She she put it out in the ethers, and I am that. And what I do for my work is really very much in this, therapy, mental health, mental illness prevention space, specifically for Black people across the diaspora. And I really hone in on that because, sometimes in the US context, we only think about, Black Americans as Black people. But we really focus on, Black people across the diaspora, whether you're from the West Indies, whether you're from the continent, whether you're from Latin America, et cetera, or any other place. If you are, really considered Black in this racialized America, then you're in our community. Yeah.
I got it. First of all, your name and the way that you embody its meaning, like
It's wild.
you absolutely live up to the meaning of your
Yeah.
name.
My mama
For
did it. She must have knew
sure.
something. She must have known something.
They moms be knowing, moms be knowing. So one of the things that I love about your platform is like you call out what a lot of us, and when I'm going to be talking tonight, I will be using the words us because
Sure.
I'm absolutely one in the number. Especially being a full-time entrepreneur, like my sanity is nothing to be played with. Like it
Sure.
is like, and I just asked the question in my community. It's like what's on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate yourself when it comes to mental toughness? Of
Mhm.
course, this conversation inspired that questioning in the
Mhm.
group, but I don't think that there is enough conversation around that.
Mhm.
But thinking about therapy for the strong friend, I love, 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 love how you message that because I think it speaks to a certain demographic.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
nope, we're not just therapy. Like we offer therapy for the strong friend. And it's just like I know for me, if I was new to your platform, if I was new to your world and I heard that type of offering, I would be up and down your
Mhm.
website,
Mhm.
which is inme.com, EYEINME.com. Okay.
Yeah. And
Just in case you were wondering.
mhm. Mhm.
So I absolutely love that. Now you said a couple of terms that are somewhat familiar, and there was one that I'd never heard before today. But one of the things that I know about you is that like your title, you are a licensed clinical social worker, but I also heard you use the phrase psychotherapist
Therapist. Yes.
earlier. Can you school us a little bit on like what all of that means?
Sure, sure. So you have many paths toward the profession of psychotherapy, right? So you have folks who can be psychologists, you have psychiatric nurse practitioners, you have licensed professional counselors, you have certified addictions counselors, you have licensed marriage and family therapists, right? And then you have licensed clinical social workers or licensed social workers. So all of us, these various disciplines can practice therapy, and get licensed in their respective, professional bodies or in their states. Um, but we all, those of us in the various professions may all practice psychotherapy. I hesitated because we don't have to, right? Like you can have a clinical social worker who does not um, practice psychotherapy, right? But you also can have a clinical social worker who does. Or
Okay.
you can have a psychologist who does not practice psychotherapy, or you can have a psychologist that does, right? So it just, the degree itself doesn't mean that you are practicing as a psychotherapist. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And it's so funny that we're talking about this now. I saw some exchange on Instagram earlier
Mm-hmm.
where there's a therapist who was schooling whoever was watching on the difference between someone who has a PhD, right, versus someone who is licensed. And
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah. So
and
it's really different. One, so like PhD is the degree. It doesn't mean that that person, is, it has a license to practice, right? And then you have PhD, and then you have PsyD, right? So you get in the weeds of like the different degrees that one that allows one to be able to practice. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I get that. Thank you. Thank you for breaking that down for us. Now going back to like names.
Sure.
I in me is very unique. What is like the origin? What's the background on how you came up with that name for your practice?
So I don't share this story often. So I'll give very high level. But really,
Right.
the name came to me during my undergraduate studies at Delaware State University. And when you leave to go to school, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and I look at your face.
Did I know that?
You did know that. You
I
must
think
have
I did
forgot.
know that. It's been a year. It's
Yeah,
been a year. I
Richmond,
forgot.
Virginia, went to John Marshall High School, Joy and Pride,
That's right.
Northside.
That's right.
Let's go. But so I left home, and I went to school at Delaware. And a lot of times when you leave your environment and the world opens up, right? You start to get a lot of exposure to things. It's also a really good time for exploration, but also a really good time to align with the I inside of you, right? And so a very long time ago, actually wrote a poem because I was like in a moment where, I wanted to express some things. And at that time, I expressed myself through, not really through poetry. Just once in a while, you'll get a poem out of me, like when I can't really get the words. And that was it. And then years later, maybe 10 or more years later, I sent the poem to my mother, um, when I was at Del State. And then, like 10 years later or so or more, she sent the poem to me. And it was around the time where I was, leaving the industry, the mental health industry, because I felt very stifled and
Mm.
like I can't practice the way that I know is in me to be able to practice, right? Because the system can have you in a chokehold sometimes, and I knew I needed to branch out. And so around that time, my mom sent me that poem, and I'm like, I'm going to name it, I Am Me. And so it's really about the I inside of me, your internal compass. And so really challenging the notion that, therapists and even coaches, because I was like, I'm going to do therapy and coaching, right? Because I was so disgusted with therapy, right? And how it doesn't how it was just harmful for Black people in the way that I was learning it, in the way that I was practicing it in industry. And I'm like, how could I connect to the people that I want to connect to? I'm like, I'm gonna do coaching, and I took a coaching course, etc. And I've come back, so I have the skill, but I do mostly therapy. But it's really helping people to touch their internal compass, right? We are facilitators. We are not saviors. We are not superheroes. I really loathe a lot of that rhetoric about therapists. Like we are none of that. We are facilitators of a process for you to align with you in your uniqueness and be able to do whatever it is that you want to do in the world. So shout out to you, Danielle the Coach, because I don't know that I've ever told that story publicly in any kind of way before. So, you know, you got
Well,
something, you got something going on.
I'm honored. I'm honored. I'm honored. I'm honored. Thank you for being open to sharing that. One thing that I know, like in this space, especially when people see creators, business owners, entrepreneurs, showing up online or um, operating in their element, there begins to be like this disassociation with the fact that we are human,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Hmm.
We're real people.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things that I love doing is asking questions that aren't totally related to the business, right? To get
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
know the person, like to bring humanity, to humanize, my guests when they come on, because
Yeah.
I understand what it's like firsthand, oftentimes to be handled or attempted to be handled almost like I'm inhuman. Like I
Yeah.
feel all the
Like a
things
resource.
or like everything I touch turns to gold. No,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
my everything online is curated. Like
Hmm.
everybody can't handle the
Hmm.
failures.
Hmm.
Do I fail all the time?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I take it
Absolutely.
on the chin. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
everybody can, and I don't care to hear just anyone's opinion. So I don't give what I am not open to hearing opinions on, right? So
Absolutely.
I understand like it's interesting. I think I'm used to it now, but I do my part just to kind of help humanize my people.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
thank
I love that, and I that is a value that I embody. Because like to really to be seen, and not viewed, right? Like to really be in community with someone. That's why when you ask
you.
me who am I started out with my name and what my mother infused in it, out
Mhm,
of her own creativity. Because we get in that more. Hi, my name is Dr. Shatiea Blount. I'm a prevention scientist. I'm a this. I'm a that. And all of those are roles, And so
mhm.
I lead with, you really want to know who I am. My mama had an idea, So here we are. Yeah.
I got you. So you talked about a little bit when you reached that point in your career where you were frustrated with like the system and
Sure.
practicing in, I guess, within the formal structure that somebody else created, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I guess being frustrated with it, tired of it, and however you framed it earlier, which I thought was really eloquent, but also in great alignment with the work that I do, like what I've done and the work that I do in helping others think about how they can strategically, profitably, and um, um, how they can make purpose-driven career pivots strategically and profitably, right?
Hmm.
So, in thinking about that and knowing your experience as a full-time entrepreneur as well, founder and CEO, what from your vantage point, what are your thoughts on entrepreneurs and successful professionals working with both a therapist and a life coach in tandem?
Yes, I think you not I think I know you spoke to it earlier, right? Like having a financial advisor, having a coach, having a therapist. I really envision this concept of wraparound, right? Like
Mm,
you need a community. We are stronger together, is something that I say, right? So you have your coach for what the coach does. You have your therapist for what the therapist does. You have your psychiatrist if you need that for what the psychiatrist does. You have your pastor for what the pastor does. You have your family for what they do. You have, if you really think about as an entrepreneur, the level of propping that you need to really engage in this soft life, right? Because we don't need to um, embody struggle, right? You cultivate your dream team around you. Who's your starting five, right? Like
mm,
who are the people that are around you that have different vantage points that help you have diversity of thought as you are in this moment of rebirth, right? Or in this moment of advancement, or in this moment of stillness, right? Or in this moment of identity exploration, or whatever the moment is, to have your dream team with different vantage points but complementary, right? Um, with that, you are more likely to achieve success in the way that you have imagined it. And it's really important to find your team. um, if you can get them to talk to each other, great, because I have had plenty of, like, sign a release, I'll talk to whoever we need to talk to get, kind of get on the same page around you, right? And so I really see it as important to prop up the individual, to create community around the individual, to address what's happening, what's coming, or prevent something before it becomes harmful.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Are you?
Let me tell you something. You came up here talking about a starting five and a dream team. Like it's basketball. It's college basketball season, Dr. Shatiea. Don't play, okay?
Did you play? Are you an
I
athlete?
played in high school. I did. I played up until my junior year in high school, but I
Oh, cool.
absolutely love the the game. But my favorite level is college, but women's college. Like
Sure.
this time of year, like I think I posted the other day, I was in my feelings because there were two great games
Hmm.
on at the same time.
What
And
a
I said,
dilemma.
whoever scheduled this doesn't love us. There's just no
Hmm.
way. They don't love us. You
Hmm.
know, but yes, basketball is my jam. So I'm picking up what you're putting down for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
For sure. Have you, I know you talked about in your work where like you're like, hey, I'll sign a release, you know, whatever we need to do to get you the wraparound support that you have. But is that a commonality that you observe with clients having a dream team or an extended team beyond working with you?
Um, I would say, like, yes and no. Sometimes they have a dream team, but the players aren't operating on their same level. So really, they may be bogged down by their team as opposed to
Okay.
pumped up, you know. And sometimes, I do have clients that come in and they have their finance people, they have different coaches for different things. Maybe they don't have life coaches typically, because if we were to be honest, there is um, some tension sometimes between the work of life coaches and the work of therapists, right? And so um the so many times I wouldn't say they come in with like life coaches, but they may come in with life coaches that identify themselves in a specific niche, but not like general life coaches. So they're just
Okay.
working on like one thing. And they'll have their yeah, so I get a mixture of both. It just really depends on, the client and what they are exposed to. Why did you smirk like that when I spoke about the tension?
Because I'm getting ready to go spin the block. I gotta spin the block. We gotta talk about this tension, Dr. Shatia. We gotta talk
Hmm.
about this tension. What is
Hmm.
the tension from your vantage point that you
So
observe?
I think that the tension comes when the lines get blurred and the lanes are crossed, really.
Mhm.
And so in any profession you have bad actors, right? You have people that feel like they may have found a way to circumvent a certain process, and it's like they are identifying as a coach, but they don't necessarily, like, they're going into deep processing spaces and getting a reaction from the client, but don't really have all the skill set to understand how to really work with the trauma that you're opening up. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or
Mhm.
when the trauma gets there, you sometimes, coaches can feel um connected to it, right? Because there's like maybe some shared and lived experience, and
Mhm.
a whole trauma bond relationship is happening, and folks don't know. You know what I mean? And so therapists are like sometimes like, no, this is not ethical. This is not, we're steeped in ethics. We're steeped in, this is the steps of how you do this particular thing. This is, the how you process this, etc., right? And so sometimes that is the tension. And sometimes on the other end, um coaches you will hear, not saying you, Danielle the coach, but you will hear coaches that will really diminish the impact of therapy, to
Mm,
say that it is, it's not helpful, it drudges up, a lot of things that, don't need to be brought to the surface. You just,
mhm,
it's like, you just need this, you just need 4 steps, you just need this, and so in
mhm.
an effort to prop up what you do, you diminish what someone else does, and it happens bi-directionally. I don't necessarily, um I don't belong to that school of thought, because I think we all serve a purpose, and if we're clear about, who's the point guard, who's the man and the woman in the paint, who's the, if we all know, then we
Yeah.
we we are like, we are all on the same team around this particular person. But
Mhm.
it's important for the client to let us know that you have these other people on your team, so I know, there's plenty of time, like, look, I'm gonna pass the ball. I think you should talk to your coach about this, or I think you
Yep.
should talk that. And then when we follow up, is, did you talk to your coach about this? What did
Yeah.
they say? You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
we unpack together. And I train my team to do it in this way as well. This really collaborative care model.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much, and it's so interesting. There's a couple of things that came up listening to you speak, and one of the things that I thought about was sometimes like a visceral reaction that clients have, and it's normally in the beginning of like an engagement, and it's not, I think this is more of like the exception than the rule, but it'll be just unearthing, what's below the surface, which is not hard to do for the people that I serve. Like the
Mm-hmm.
masks that we wear in order
Mm-hmm.
to get by in these spaces that we take up space are plentiful, and they differ by the day, they differ by the room that we might be in. And so when we start to kind of like do some unearthing of things. And a lot of this happens oftentimes just with powerful questioning. Like, that's one thing I'm going to do is ask you some questions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
like, we're going to go where this thing goes. But I've had a couple of people respond and they say, as they're thinking through whatever they're thinking through, and it's, I don't want to start, I'm not going to cry. This isn't therapy, right? I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
to myself, I'm high key offended. Like
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
tears aren't safe in this space because
Mm-hmm.
they absolutely are. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get it. People have
It's
their
silos.
different perspectives and conditioning around what goes in what box, and so you get to show up however you want to show up. One of the things that anybody who has taken any amount of time in the spaces that I've created, one thing they know that whether it's Danielle the coach or Coach D, depending on how you know me, where you know me from, what
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do is tell you that you always get to choose. So
Sure.
if you feel like your tears are not appropriate for the space, this is your journey. This is your experience. You get
Sure.
to choose.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have a therapist, and are you shedding them with your
With
therapist?
somebody, yeah, does somebody get this? Yeah, it's the same thing happens in therapy. I do want to call attention to the differences between therapeutic and therapy, right?
Okay.
Like relationships with a coach or anybody else, or a spa date or a shopping trip sometimes, or these things can be therapeutic. I think that we um conflate that with therapy sometimes. So this big release and cry can be very therapeutic for the person, and it's like, okay, well, are you in therapy? Do you want to unpack that more, right, to understand where that's coming from, and then why even you compartmentalize where you can show up authentically, right? Like that is a question, a powerful question that one can ask, because even as a therapist, I would say, according to the definition, I'm about to get in my bag now, right? So
Get
according
in it,
to
Dr. Shatiea. Go
the
ahead.
the definition of therapy, which I really don't agree with. One of my other credentials, you Dr. Shatiea, but my doctoral degree is in prevention science, where I really look to
Okay.
prevent mental illness, in communities of color across the diaspora. And so in our country, we don't really have prevention services for therapy. So at the time, really, where you go and see a therapist, they are saying, and we bill insurance, they are saying that there's some kind of issue or illness. And that really feeds into the stigma of
Mm.
something has to be wrong with you
Mhm.
to go to a therapist, right? So this is why people save us to the last minute sometimes or don't come at all, right? But
Mhm.
when you work with therapists like me and my team, where we have a prevention lens, we are a part of your community. You don't, and nothing has to be wrong with you in order for you to come and just check in, because you're checking in on a perspective. You are creating
Mhm.
diversity of thought around this, in your case, this leap you're about to make in your career. And so you have
Mhm.
the perspective of the therapist, which is important, which is valid, but it's not the only perspective. You have your perspective. You can have your mama's perspective. You can have the pastor's perspective. You can have,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, astrology perspective, whatever it is. But it's
Mhm.
nice to just get a few of them. But our infrastructure doesn't say that you're allowed to do that without having a mental health disorder. So therapy, bringing it back
Yeah.
according to how it's defined in the United States, not necessarily how it's defined that I am me,
Mhm.
means that we are treating some kind of a illness, right?
I
We're
got you.
treating a depression, we're treating anxiety. But I've worked with clients for quite some time and I've never diagnosed them with anything, because I mean, do they have patterns and symptoms? Sure. But there's no emphasis on saying you have this if that is not necessary for your path to wherever it is that you're going,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
And so I think specifically for Black people, a lot of times this is why we have stigma. This is why we are skeptical of therapists, because they should be, you know what I mean? Until you find one that aligns with your ideology around mental health. We have conflated mental health and mental illness, right? But they're not the same thing. You know, mental health is health, right? So the same way you have your annual check-in just to, like, doc, what you think? You know what I mean? I got this, there's some pain right here or whatever. You check in just to, like, because the doctor has a perspective that you may
Yeah.
not necessarily have. You try some over-the-counter stuff, it ain't really work. You're like, all right, well, let me just go check this out. You can engage with therapists in that manner. However, you need to know that if you are utilizing your health insurance to do so, when you leave out of there, whether you know it or not, you have some kind of diagnosis if you're using your health insurance to do so.
Mm.
And if you don't mind that, then cool. Or ask them, what will you be diagnosing me with? So you can know, because if you ever see it again on some kind of insurance paperwork or some kind of clearance you need to get, or et cetera, you know where it came from. Because a lot of people, therapists, not on my team, but it is very common practice for people to just do it and not say anything about it.
Oh wow. I'm
Yeah, and what
learning.
is called in our field is medical necessity. So, but we don't do that, and it challenges sometimes because it makes us look like we're inaccessible when we're really like no, we want you to know what is happening at every step.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't just want to have this business practice that we're doing on the back end and not respecting you enough to let you know everything that's happening around you. You know what I mean?
I mean, integrity and ethics are at an all-time high. It sounds like with I am me, and I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm here for it.
Especially for our people, because we have a built-in mistrust and distrust of systems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And rightfully so. And so I really see it like, okay, Shati, if you're going to be a part of this system, you already understand, how the people that you want to serve may be coming in a little skeptical. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
want to do everything that I can to um, um, create a space of transparency and honesty,
Yep.
and decision making for the human being that is on my screen, because we only do virtual. That's important to say too. Yeah.
Much, much needed. Woo. It's nothing like a learning moment. I love walking away from conversations like this, like literally learning something brand new that I had no idea about. Thank
Yeah.
you for going in your bag and
Yeah.
sharing
Oh,
that.
because it really, because even when we take things like grief and, you know, and identity development, like things that are just natural parts of life. Why do we have to
Yeah.
pathologize that? Why can't we just
Mhm.
show up for the strong friend? You know what I mean? With our vantage point.
So is it recommended to pay out of pocket if you want to keep your business your business?
Yes. That is the only way to keep your business your business. Because really the insurance company can come and they could say, "Oh, well, you didn't really have to do that intervention with the client. We paid you, but we're going to take the money back." So it's called clawbacks. Yeah. And nobody else, medical professionals, we know, and mental health professionals, yeah, they will come in or they will say, "Oh, you didn't really need that. So we are only going to pay for half of this. Um, or they only say, "Oh, well, they should be able to fix this in 10 sessions. Anything after that, we're not going to pay for." So if you really want to have your team be your team and not have these other influencers, it's best to pay out of pocket if you can.
And now it makes it even more. I could kind of understand and rationalize without a whole bunch of like information being shared, like why I've seen therapists, more and more therapists, make the public decision that, hey, we're completely private now. We no longer accept insurance. Is what do you call it? Not
It's
private
private
pay.
pay or cash pay.
Oh, it's private pay. Look
You
at
know, look
me.
at you. Okay. Yeah, it's private
Oh my
pay.
God. If y'all haven't learned, I'm really silly. Like I'm
Hmm.
really, especially when I get to vibe with my with
Yeah.
my people.
And you see doctors doing it now. There's this big movement of to like direct primary care. You have doctors moving
Yes.
into direct primary care. And it's almost like I remember when I shout out to Dell State, when I went to college and I used to hang out with some friends on the football team, and they will begin to talk about how like they loved the game in high school, but then when they went to college and it's now like a job, and
Hmm.
they didn't love it as much. So it's kind of similar with therapists and insurance companies sometimes, like they have so
Yeah.
much control over what you do and how you do. Oftentimes it's not
Yep.
worth it, and they don't pay you. They don't pay well, you know what I mean? And so when you know that you can re-engage with the love that you have for the work and really be there for your client the way that you want to and the way that they want you to or need you to without this additional person. It allows for you to be creative and flexible in the ways that work. And I think it also aligns with people who are leaving. The same reason you got six figure quitters is the
Come
same
on, Dr.
reason why you have therapists who don't take insurance. Yeah. It's the very same reason. Like it requires a pivot, you know. So it's the same reason. It's the same phenomena in a different industry. Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. I totally understand. Okay. And so something else that I wrote down when we first started talking, and you just brought that back up again. So I'm glad. And this was the term that I mentioned that I'd never heard before. And what did you say? Mental illness prevention.
Yes.
I have never, in my 21 years of being on this earth, and that whatever kind of math multiplication you want to do, that's your business.
You gotta flip. You gotta.
No, I'm gonna give myself at least 30, right? 30 is the new 20. That's what they say.
Hmm.
But I have never heard the term mental illness prevention. But my God, the picture that it paints just
Sure.
off the wordplay,
Hmm.
that is something that, like, are you on an island of your own doing this kind of work?
Um, there's not a lot of talk about it. It's not a mainstream conversation, because we have conflated mental health and mental illness. Even to the point where you hear people like, "Yeah, she got mental health." Like, who doesn't have mental health? We all have mental health. You know what I mean? But we have really done a disservice when we continue to speak that way about our psychological health, right? And so just like any other illness or disorder or disease, there is a process, right? There's mild, moderate, severe, and there's levels of prevention that we can engage in to prevent what's mild from turning into severe, Or we can sometimes look, this is why I say just having a therapist on your team to look out for some things. We can understand things from your family history or your patterning, and say, okay, well, you are at risk for a depressive disorder based off of whichever, whatever is happening, but you're
Mm-hmm.
not there yet. So let us um suggest some things for you to help you so you don't have to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's you have some people having these conversations, but I don't know a whole lot of people that's having the conversations in this way.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm uniquely situated. I situate this in the needs of Black folk, right? Because we are extremely resilient. I heard you use the word like mental toughness, and a lot of time because we are lauded for being so resilient, we don't have an internal mechanism to understand that when we are at our breaking point either. So but the therapist we can see the writing on the wall, and we were like, tough it out, tough it out, tough it out, and next thing you know, we are in a full breakdown. But this breakdown was preventable, but it becomes a part of our community, like, well, she had a breakdown, but she'll be back, and it's like, well, and so we have language and all sorts of adages, and you know what I mean, be strong, strong Black woman, strong Black man, strong Black this, that supports this. And I am here to say, like, hey, let's reimagine strength, because why are we the only people who have to be strong like this? Let's reimagine it. Well, so I'm back in my bag.
The
Let me
bag is required in this conversation, Dr. Shatiea. So please do not try to be modest on this conversation. Okay.
Mhm,
You know
mhm.
there's somebody, so like current events. So it's one of the things that I love about how I show up in this space that I do and the work that I do is I'm really attuned with like what's happening current events wise, right?
Sure. Mhm.
And as you were speaking about mental toughness, there is an image of somebody that came to mind. And I have kind of been following them for a couple years now. And I'm telling you, with every obstacle that comes their way, like when I think about mental toughness, I think they are a phenomenal model
Mhm.
of what that looks like publicly, right?
Mhm.
Because behind closed doors, it's fair game for all of us, right? But
Mhm.
the person is Shador Sanders,
Okay. I don't know
Deion
who is that.
Sanders' youngest son that he went like fifth round draft pick in the NFL, should have went first round. Then it was drama on his team. He was the backup quarterback, basically fought his way up to now he's the starting quarterback. Now he's still catching like shade from his coach, his
Mhm.
head coach. It's just like the man can't seem to catch a break right now. When I see Shador, I also hear Allen Iverson. Shout
Mhm.
out to Bethel High School, my alma mater, my high school alma mater,
Mhm.
right? The phrase with Allen Iverson, where he's like, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we talking about practice. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's just like the mental gymnastics that we sometimes have to move through, the routines that we have to do to show up in a way that we are proud of.
Mhm.
it it can be a lot. And like I know
Sure.
Shador's faith is what keeps him, but I also know his family, his dream team. I
Mhm.
know he has one. We see his dream team,
Mhm.
live and in full effect. But the same kind of thing that he's facing on this public international scale, there's levels to it. And I know that there are a lot of people who are facing similar um constraints, similar obstacles, like in their 9 to 5,
Sure.
right? And it's like every day is a struggle. Sunday through Friday, it is a struggle because
Mhm.
you know what's waiting for you the next day,
On
Sunday
Monday.
through Thursday night, right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
just like I know what's waiting for me tomorrow. Basically, my job or my work, maybe my boss or whatever. This environment might be toxic. It's hellish and it's wearing me down.
Mm-hmm.
It's wearing me down. And for those that are stacked like Shador with from a dream team's perspective, might have a little bit more runway.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who might not have the dream team readily accessible and in place and may know that they need some help, that they don't even have the energy maybe to even ask for help. Like
Sure.
it's a different harrowing experience.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag ask me how I know.
Mm-hmm.
Been there,
Mm-hmm.
done that,
Mm-hmm.
got a couple of t-shirts, and by God's grace, I don't look like what I've been through. And now I'm in
Yeah.
a position to help other people navigate it, whether it's by enlisting my support and my help, or whether it's by enlisting the support of someone like Dr. Shatiea and her team, bridging that gap, what have you. And that just underscores like my passion for fighting the good fight and sometimes being the belief that my people don't even have any because they just been so beat down.
Yeah. Yeah. So what in listening to you, um, what I love about the work, right, is that like it's such an honor to earn the trust of another human being first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to understand that the it's hard out here. You know what I mean? Like life for me ain't been no crystal stair, right? Like many of people have their struggle at various
Mm-hmm.
degrees, right? Because we all have different temperament, we all have different levels of bandwidth and capacity to deal with different things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
something that's very important because now everything is trauma, right? Trauma doesn't necessarily, it's not across the board. Me and you can go through the
Yeah.
same thing right now and you experience it as a traumatic event and I don't. And that's okay, right?
Okay.
And so when you spoke about people that like that Sunday night through Friday at 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like what they are feeling, this like intense, debilitating anxiety, and weathering. Weathering is a real thing. Weathering means that there's this like compounded effect of stress that begins to break down your organs. I have a really good
Mm.
girlfriend of mine who says, we say she's a nurse. She said, people say black don't crack, but we crack from the inside, right? And so we start to see our bodies breaking down and our faces are just as moisturized as it needs to be. You know what I mean? And so what I really appreciate and honor about this work is this is where folks come and lay your burdens down, right? Like it is where it is a relationship that is only solely focused on whatever it is that you need in the moment. And sometimes it's not the fixer. It's not like, because we can't make this pressure stop, this pressure cooker. We can't necessarily do that, but we can
Yeah.
stand with you. You know what I mean? And we can hold you up and remind you of who you are in that process, because a lot of times this is where people forget, right? They forget and they become all of these different things to be able to navigate this external environment. But we say, hey, you can navigate this external environment, but it doesn't have to change who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to know when you're putting on a mask, because we all have
Yeah.
to wear them. Like let's know what mask goes where, but we also need a space to take the mask off. So a lot of times, even, I work with, very successful people, you know, uh, our clients of IME, and they're very learned in like PR or sales, or you know what I mean? And you bring that version naturally, and I smile and I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Like you bring that version naturally into the
Dr.
therapy
Shakti, don't
space,
do us. Don't do
because
us.
no, I love it. I think it's beautiful. You know what I mean? I think it's beautiful because I get to see like how how you have to be in the world until you get to know like this is a space where you don't have to be that. And it's not my job to strip you of that immediately, because that is traumatic. That's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to usher you and help you understand how the different parts of you can show up. And this is a space that you'll eventually learn that is curated just for you. You ain't have to worry about me talking about my stuff unless it's helpful to your stuff. You know what I mean? Because there is some
Mm-hmm.
level of, with black people, some level of self-disclosure, right? Because we vibes people. You know what I mean? Like I don't need you to be no blank wall. I need to understand who you are before I figure out if I can trust you, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so I am, me and my team, right? Like we really look at this as like for real work, because if you are supporting someone else in our community, it's the trickle down effect, right? Especially when we're working with leaders, because if the leader is healthy, then what about the kingdom? You know what I mean? What about the rest of the people, right? Because you are now operating from a clear mind, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. You have mentioned them a couple times, and I absolutely love it. And especially when you talked about how
Thank you
you
for asking some
train,
questions.
how
Okay.
you train. Oh yeah, we did. I did see that question. We're gonna come to that in a second. How you train them, but you made reference to your team a couple
Sure.
times. Can you tell us about your team and the amazingness that they
My
add?
dream team. So
Yeah.
I have a few. So what I do in my practice, we all can work in a general space. And I'll answer truly OB392's question in this too.
Okay.
So we all can operate generally, right? Like overarching therapy for the strong friend, right? Black people, and below that we all have like a niche, right? Like an area that we, pay special attention to, So for me, it's really about culture. That's why that whole diaspora thing, I'm really interested in Black as a full experience, in the United States and abroad. I have some international clients as well. And mine is also looking at how systems. I just had a conversation on LinkedIn about how sometimes they want us to diagnose the people, but the people are having a very normal response to a broken system, right? So if a person is having this worry about going to work and angst, I'm not gonna say that something is wrong with you because you feel anxious about going into a toxic environment. You should. Everything is working well. Like you should feel anxious about that. Like you're actually, alive, right? Because it's an
Yeah.
unsafe environment. So that's my area. I have Kevin Carter. He really focuses on grief across the spectrum, right? Not just death, but grief as it relates to shifts in work, shifts in identity, shifts in roles. You're going from an individual to a caretaker for your aging parents. You know what I mean? All of these loss of limbs. So anything that comes along with grief, loss, and change, which is anything. If you're in therapy in any way, we all have experienced it. It is a natural part of life. So he focuses on that. I have Dr. Walter Stamp. He focuses on supporting queer folk in their identity exploration, in their day-to-day lives. He's really around like working in the space of Black queer folk, helping them to feel whatever it is their goal is for themselves in the context of therapy and in relationships. He does couples work. So he doesn't only work with queer people, but that is like where he did his dissertation study, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have Sharon Michelle, who is working with professional women around transitions. She also has experience working in veteran spaces, which is a very unique experience. And
Mhm.
so with that, the goal of psychotherapy really is co-constructed between the client and the therapist. Sometimes it is just for support. It's like, well, I don't know exactly what I need right now, but I need a space to talk and someone to listen and ask me some questions. Sometimes it's, I'm having some conflict and I want to figure out how to show up better, or I'm having these thoughts that no one knows that I'm having, or I need a support system. So it really runs the gamut. Um, and I would say, like, sometimes you may not even, you don't know what you don't know. So it's worthwhile sometimes to do a consultation, especially if they're free. We offer free consultations to say, like, I want to explore if therapy would be good for me, but I don't even really have a identified goal at the moment, but I want to just do some exploration. And then you'll have the therapist to do some exploration for you. And if it's nothing is there, we'll say, like me, like, hey, I think you're doing pretty good. Why don't you just check in once a month? Right. And so you keep that
Mhm.
cadence. And then if something comes up, we already have the relationship established, you know, and if we need to increase um, the frequency, we can do that. So I hope that answers the question. Truly OB 392.
I'm
So
dropping
yeah.
your I just dropped your link to your website in the chat, and it's on the screen right now. Also,
Yes.
small brief intermission plug, just in case I want people to know how to find you now and in the future. Did
Yes.
not or and in the
Yes.
future.
Yes.
My wordplay is intentional. It's
Mm-hmm.
I N me
I am
dot.
me. Yeah, and you'll go down to the drop down menu under services. You go to find a therapist, and then that will be our therapy for the strong friend offering. And in that, you will be able to look at the different therapists, and from that screen, set up a free consultation if you wish. You know.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving us the rundown. I want to kind of bridge the gap between like those that are still in a workplace of some sort, whether they are still managing a 9 to 5, which
Mm-hmm.
9 to 5s are um, there's no issue with 9 to 5s. I think that might be
Absolutely not.
a myth of people who see the work that I do and think I'm anti 9 to 5. Let me help you understand something. I'm not paying your bills. Okay.
Absolutely.
You might want to keep that job until you are certain. Do this work with me so that we can be strategic and set you up to make a profitable pivot, right? That's also like purpose aligned and purpose driven. But I don't see anything wrong with 9 to 5s. I just know that there is a certain subset of the population that is at some point, whether it's at the outset or at some point along the line of their life's journey and coming into their own, they are no longer 9 to 5 aligned. Like
Sure.
like you talked about how things eat us up from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of people that are carrying that, and we would never know.
Mm-hmm.
We would never know.
Absolutely.
One, because they don't feel like they have a safe space to share. Two, they're tired of being judged. They already know how people in their immediate sphere is going to think. They don't think as big, as bold, as courageous, um, and they're not as open minded as those who may be entrepreneur spirited, entrepreneur minded, or those that just don't believe in following the status quo just because that's the way it's always been done. And
Mm-hmm.
there is this energy around like, I just don't want to hear what they gotta say. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna keep it to myself because they're not gonna understand me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And for those people that don't feel like they have a safe space that is non-judgmental, you know, bias free, um, and one that could also keep them accountable to what they said they wanted to do, even when they don't feel like doing it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I get that, right? And so in knowing that those people exist, they are still doing their best to exist in that 9 to 5 corporate or corporate aligned, corporate ease system. This brings us back to the work that both of us do. From your vantage point, what are some of the myths around, if any, mental health in the workplace?
What are some of the myths? Um, So I think that one of the myths that come to mind is when people say like this is partly a myth and maybe not fully, partly a myth. This like leave this at the door, right? Like when you get into the job, that this aspect of you, of whatever is happening in your life, in your psychological well-being space, gets left at the door, and somehow compartmentalize and show up,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not really recognizing that your nervous system is working overtime just to be in that space. So you can't. That's like saying, you know, bring your body in and leave your hand outside. You can't necessarily do that. The whole you is there, and I think in the workplace, oftentimes I said this on another podcast, a smiling face is not a smiling heart. You know what I mean? And it's not a aligned or joyful person. So a lot of times you may not know that the night before this person was really contemplating whether or not they wanted to be on earth tomorrow, and a lot of times employers and in spaces of work that gets missed because this person is productive. We have a high um, when we look at productivity and we associate it with success in a way that makes it difficult for a person, an individual, to even find a safe space within themselves to say that I'm not okay. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I'm doing all the things,
Mhm.
and I'm getting the reinforcement, right? Because I'm getting the attention and people are reinforcing this thing about me. So then you become that thing. And a lot of times employers don't, you know, they may know and don't know what to do about it, right? Which is why we have our workplace well-being service. And
Mm.
sometimes they don't know. They have no idea because they themselves don't view themselves as full human beings, so they're not really checking in on the true mental health of their team,
Yeah.
or checking in on the mental health of their team may give them insight that may challenge the bottom line, right? In terms of
Mhm.
what needs to be achieved for the work to continue to happen. So I think that they are, workplaces oftentimes can be, I mean, it's a lot of what we talk about in sessions with folk, like, yes, you have to make your money. And if this is how you're going to do it, you for sure need a dream team, right? Because there's no other way to sustain in this environment, and you are going to burn out, you know what I mean? And then you are going to feel, a lot of these, negative, very difficult emotions without the tools to be able to manage them, or the balance. Because sometimes people just go deeper into work, or they go into escapism. And this is where you find your like addictions and all these types of things, because I mean, it makes sense. You do want to find some reprieve from this reality. And,
Yeah.
sometimes these are the easiest ways. Or with the folks that we work with, maybe very high achieving people, you'll find that they may engage in, being the person for everyone, right? Like, so they may not have the bandwidth to really sit still and look at themselves, because they are the helper for this person and the helper for that person. And really, it is another way of escapism that is also lauded for, what you are able to do for other people. So sometimes the question is like, who am I if I'm not this? And so I spoke about, Kevin, earlier, grief, loss, and change. Sometimes, we have several iterations of ourselves that we want to see, but it also requires grief and loss of who we were, and we may not necessarily have the wherewithal to navigate ourselves to this person that we want to be.
Yeah. I love that. We had a question as you were speaking. How, as a leader, do you start facilitating that conversation?
Around mental health with staff, I
Yeah,
guess.
so I think so. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, so I think so, without going into, people's personal business too much,
Sure.
I think it is really looking at the resources that you provide for your staff, right? So when I spoke earlier about the Wellbeing Works program, we are as a team embedded in the community, right? And we have services where your employer, your leader can hire us to be the therapist for folks on your team if they wish to access it, right? So oftentimes people may buy, I know you've seen like the talk spaces or the better help, or they'll buy these like wellness packages that don't have a prevention perspective, or may give you a couple of deep breathing exercises and some worksheets and a chat function, and is not really, doesn't have the skill or the time or the care sometimes to really look at all aspects of you. So what we provide is not just wellness, right? It is therapy if you need it. You know what I mean? Um, and it's still private, so your leader can feel aligned with saying, I've vetted the resource, instead of just giving you a checkbox resource. Like, well, you have this, you have EAP, you have this. EAP is not equipped oftentimes to deal with the multi-level and multifaceted experiences of our folk. Let's just be honest. They're really good for case managerial things. Let me give you a referral here. Let me do 2 sessions of this. Let's, they're not trained to do transformative work. So my team really works in that space.
What I heard was they are not I and me LLC. I'm gonna toot your horn for you, sis. Toot toot.
Yeah,
But speak,
yeah,
okay, I think that's a great segue. Thank you for that question in the chat. But the topic of this conversation was the gift of mental health, and
sure.
that was very much so intentional and in parallel to a campaign, I believe, that you
Yeah,
currently have
yeah,
underway
yeah,
over at IME. What
sure.
is that all about?
So it really is, it's the offering that I just spoke about, right? Like, so for leaders of, small teams, 50 or less, that care about the mental health of their team, and are located within our area of practice, DC, Maryland, Virginia. We have Kevin Grief, he's licensed in Florida and Pennsylvania and North Carolina as well. It is, instead of giving your team a pizza party, right, during this time where there's a lot of economic uncertainty, the people don't know what's going to happen with their insurance. You know what I mean? The stock market is doing all the things that it's doing. Retirement is doing whatever, like all the real things. People are still having um, regular life stressors, right? Instead of, like, give your team the pizza party, but also give them the gift of mental health, right? So meaning that, and sometimes, I'm getting flustered here, sometimes the um, employer may not be able to afford a full, like, healthcare package from Blue Cross Blue Shield or Kaiser or whatever it is that one may have, right? So this is a stopgap, or another solution where you can at least make sure that you are, for the cost of maybe one full insurance package for a client, a staff person, you could purchase a block of time from IME, where your staff can do virtual walk-ins as they need it every week, right? So the leader can purchase like a 4 hour, we sell them in 4 hour blocks. So say, Danielle the coach's team have Wednesdays from 4 to 8. So 4 to 8, your team can do virtual walk-ins and make appointments with licensed therapists to be able to talk about whatever it is they have on their mind for that day, you know? And they will see either Walter, Sharon, um, Kevin, etc. Right? So people that are immersed. And also for the solopreneur, we have an offering for the solopreneur as well, the person who may not have a large team, where they can get their therapy as a write-off, right? Because we know that oftentimes we use post-tax dollars for this, but the wellness of the founder is important for the longevity of the business. So it is a line item. And how can we think about supporting entrepreneurs in that same way, where they get a weekly session, and what they also get asynchronous chat, text message support, through in between sessions, for those moments where, Danielle, where it's like, my session is not till to Wednesday, but I need something on this Monday right here, so this kind of a stand-in
Right.
moment for that as well. So though that's the gift of mental health campaign is really our business to business model, where we are saying, give your team something that they can actually use, because in these times for Black people, there we are having a lot of, you hear unprecedented times. I don't know if it's unprecedented because we've always had to be resilient, but let's help your staff to build their dream team, so that's the business to business.
Some things I think are so simple that they appear to be complex. Like this offering on both sides of the aisle for the leader of a team or of an organization and or the solopreneur. Like this was to keep in the spirit of our basketball analogies. This
Hmm.
was a perfect assist or alley oop. You know,
Okay.
like that. Listen,
Balling.
I got something else for you. How about that follow through? How about that
Yes,
follow
yes,
through?
yes, yes.
So speaking of follow through, for that leader of a team or organization, division, however it is situated in your place of employment, whether it's the business of your own
Hmm.
or whether it's somebody else's business that you lend your expertise to,
Hmm.
or the solopreneur that is wanting to that was enlightened as I was recently enlightened about the write-off.
Hmm.
And that was a bar that you said, like, I hate that I didn't write it down, but I'm actually going to go back and catch it. When
Okay.
you
Well, send
said,
it to me. You know what I mean? Bars. Hashtag bars.
you
You
it
know,
had
the poet is
hashtag
coming back out.
bar. It was like the something about the founder and their mental health is essential to the longevity of the
Hmm.
business. Like that was a bar. So whether it's that leader or that solopreneur that wants to follow through
Sure.
and learn more about how they can explore possibility with IME, have a consultation, or maybe even sign up for the good work that you and your team are doing, like what is their next step?
Yeah. So they will do the same thing. Go to ime.com. Under the services menu, there is corporate wellness. And then they will just get on my calendar and we'll have a discovery call.
I got it. I
Yep.
got
Very
it.
simple.
You shared
Oh, hey,
lot,
Lena.
a lot around who your team is and their areas of specialty where there might be some overlap and there's some also just some distinction. What keeps your current clientele coming back from your vantage point?
I mean, was that good medicine? You know what I mean? Like it is. We are I think it's the transparency, the way that we operate in terms of, ethical practice, the level of care and creativity we show, with what we do. Um the authenticity. We all have been trained in like relational work, so it really becomes a relationship, you know? And I think we know how to sustain those relationships for the time that it's needed, because our work is not really about like keep coming back in that way. Like sales, it's almost like I'm here when you need me. It's like your mechanic. You don't just, you know what I mean, just show up for your mechanic and you don't know like, okay, cool, I want you to look at this, or I heard this or something. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
I need it's right, I'm time for a tune up. So we're not in the business of just like keeping you on the books. Sometimes it's very much like, hey, it's
Yeah,
it's time to fly, and they're like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, Shatiea, but I love you. I mean, you're not getting discharged. Let's just try, instead of every 7 days, let's do, let's meet in 10 days and see what happens. You know what I mean? And so a lot
yeah,
of times it is, not fostering dependency, because sometimes if the therapist hasn't really checked their ego, in certain ways, they could create very unhealthy relationships with clients where I won't go so deep into it, but where, the relationship is imbalanced and they have fostered some kind of dependency on them, which is not, they have missed the plot. The plot is to to help the person to be able to operate in their life and not necessarily have to depend on you, because God forbid something happens to you, you want to know that your clients will figure out how to find someone else, and they will utilize the skills and all those types of things. I'm going on vacation at the end of the month. I'm going to be okay knowing that my clients, they're going to be just fine. You know what I mean? And for those who need some support, I love that I have a team, because I'm like, okay, well, this person will provide my coverage while I'm gone, but you're still in the house. You're still in IME's
yeah,
house. So this is why I love the expansion that we've had and this whole wraparound. Because sometimes we also work together. I'll see the individual, Walter will see the couple. right? I have a client where
Mm.
I'm seeing the individual, or Walter's seeing the individual, and they have like a intense like grief, maybe a death or something is sudden, and we're like, Kevin is the goat for that. So like, let's do 5 sessions with Kevin. We're all monitoring the case still. We're still on the case, so we share, and then you come on back here. So we don't try to step on each other's toes. We really work as a community, you know.
I got it. I got it. Well, I'm sold. I don't know about y'all. And right. I don't know about y'all, but I'm sold. Is there anything else that you want to share with those who may be watching live and even those that may be on the replay squad?
Um, the thing that I want to share. So, so I mentioned therapy is a relationship. I think there's a lot of information. It's a lot of fluffy information about therapy all the time. That's like, oh, that you'll always be like affirmed and you're right and all that kind of stuff. But therapy is work. You are challenged in this space. Sometimes your therapist gets on your nerves, right? It's okay for you to say that. Sometimes you may have a rupture. Sometimes your therapist may get it wrong, but you learn about repair in relationship. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And so you spoke about that human piece earlier. I don't want people to project onto the therapist that they're all knowing and all being. You know what I mean? It is a special relationship that is designed for you to learn how you relationship. You know,
mm,
and I think that is very very important. So it is work, and you will be challenged. Um, um, so I think that's important to know. And also therapy, because it's a relationship, you are not always a fit, right? And so, and sometimes you may have to break up with your therapist when, like, you may love your therapist, but they may not have the skill set for what it is that you need in this leg of life, right? You may have to
mhm.
sub. Come on, basketball. You may have to get a sub. You know what I mean? Get a little 30-second, get a timeout. You know what I mean? And so all of that stuff is very normal. Giving your therapist feedback is always the best, because it is an iterative process. We're not like mind readers, and as I say, even in my consultations, when I do them, like, one of our values is we value your lived experience as evidence and scholarship. So I went to school and I know the literature, and I know what have come out of the academic space. I know that. You know you. So we take what you know and we take what I know and we put it together, you know, for your good. So we have to be in relationship with each other. Yeah. So I'll end with that, I think.
I love that. Doc, you are, I said this in the beginning, and I think you just made the case. You just made me a truth teller in front of these our amazing audience, right? But you're amazing. I love your heart for the work that you do. I love your heart for our people. I love like your passion. I love your authenticity. And even, I'm grateful for the time that you have invested in showing up like for me and my people, because I know people in your sphere, they already know how amazing you are, right?
to some
But
degree
hope.
th- to some degree, this I appreciate you. I want to say that I have been, this is my time of doing more of these. Typically I like to be the engine behind things, and I haven't really been as forward facing. So
Mhm.
as you celebrate the year of six figure quitter, I'm here with you, really executing the vision of being more visible and sharing my knowledge and my passion and my skill. And I'm really thankful to you for having me on your platform and giving me a space and a stage to do so, because you have cultivated a really amazing community. And I know for certain that that is not easy to do, to cultivate it and maintain it. So kudos to you for that. And I really appreciate you for having me on as well. So I want to make sure.
Yeah, of course, of course. Perfect segue. You know what, Dr. Shatiea, we we're a little too good at
Yeah,
this
best of both
handoff.
worlds.
This is coming a little bit too easy without rehearsal. I'm just
Mhm.
saying. I'm just saying we might be on to something. I'm gonna take it as it comes, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying we might be
yeah.
on to something. We might be going for a run for a second.
Let's
But
do it.
speaking of the community, I have been intentional about showing up over the last 6.5, almost 7 years that I have been on this side of my 9 to 5, and leaning into courage, leaning into purpose, leaning into what lights me up, and helping others in a way that I did have help and support, and
Good.
in ways that I didn't have help and support because it just didn't exist when I was in that season of being frustrated, overwhelmed, jaded, feeling like I was withering away every single day at my desk, but
Mhm.
also feeling on a soul level that there was more to life and career and work and making money than what I was presently experiencing, make in a six-figure good government job with the
Mhm.
FBI,
Mhm.
right? So I know what that is like. And so not only have I created this brand, Danielle the Coach, I've have a Facebook group, but I most recently created a new community, a new version of community over on the school platform, which you can access at the sixfigurepivot.com. Let me put that up for you. So just go to the sixfigurepivot.com. You might be able to click it in the comments. I'm not sure. But the sixfigurepivot.com, go there, request access, and I will let you in. It is currently a free community. I don't know that it'll always be free. I see some things in my future, but for
Okay.
now, it is free. So come over and join. I am beating the drum over there. From an engagement perspective, but also helping to position those who are looking for a safe space to like think big and believe bigger about what's next for them. Like that is absolutely the space that you can do that in. And yes, the six figure pivot is a play on my book baby that turns one this Friday, 12/12. The Six Figure Quitter is the entrepreneur's guide to transitioning out of your 9 to 5 without regret. I released it on December 12th, 2024, and it absolutely was a labor of love. It has done amazingly well, and I know that I'm just getting started. I know that it is just getting started. So I've been all over the place preaching the gospel of the six figure quitter and charging and challenging those who are in that space that I've talked about all night long of being frustrated, jaded, all of the things, knowing that you want something different. You're ready to tell these people tomorrow, like what they can do with them and
Mhm.
this job
Mhm.
and your six-figure salary. My challenge to you is before you make any life-changing decisions, read the book. Read the book. This is a season of your life and career where it is going to require you to invest in yourself in ways that you probably have depended or expected your employer to invest in you before.
Mm.
A way that you take back the reins over your life and your career, you put your money where your heart is. And
Mhm.
so the book is $24.99. You can go to the sixfigurepivot.com. If you get it from there, I will sign it personally and send it to you. So that's a resource. There's also the community, which I talked about just a few minutes ago, the sixfigurepivot.com. And so can't say you didn't know. Now, like you get to choose what you do with this amazing information that you've gotten from both a therapist and a life coach.
Mhm.
This has been a phenomenal exchange of this vision that I had called the best of both worlds, a therapist and a life coach. Dr. Shatiea, thank you. I appreciate you. To our active and captive audience, thank
Oh
y'all for
yes,
being live in the chat
yes. I
tonight.
see somebody I know too. I'm
Do
excited.
you?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Sharina. Mhm.
Awesome. It's not, it's, listen, uh, it's such a treat when people not only are here, but when they engage with us too and ask like questions in the moment.
Mhm.
Um, Dr. Shati, I'm put you on the spot. You don't have to answer me right now, but I've been plotting on inviting you into the community, maybe to do like a little private something for those who are in the community
Sure.
Maybe like a Q&A, because people can't really engage with you like that here. But
Hmm.
I may be in your inbox, seeing
Yeah, the
what.
answer is yes. Let's just set it up. The answer, I'm going on vacation for the year, but the answer is yes, you know. So let's just, set it up and I'll be happy to do it.
So you might want to hop over to the sixfigurepivot.com, because when it happens, that is where it will happen. It won't be streamed anywhere else. It will be exclusive to our Six Figure Pivot family. Thank you, Dr. Shatiea. I'm gonna give you the rest of your night. I know we went over a little bit, but I'm
No,
grateful
it's
for you.
okay.
And I look forward to what else is in store for us, because I think we're
Yes.
on to something.
We on to something. Thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you
No
and your
problem. Good
community.
night,
Have a
y'all.
good night. Bye-bye.